Hola, hola, and welcome to Off the Wall. My name is Sol, and I have another book video for you today. It's halfway through Hispanic Heritage Month, and I thought I should give some recommendations in case you're looking for some more books to read by Hispanic authors this month. If you want to check out my Hispanic Heritage Month TBR video, the link will be down in the description down below. The first book I'm going to recommend is When We Left Cuba by Chanel Cleeton. This book follows Beatriz Perez, a Cuban immigrant to the US during the Cuban Revolution. Her family were rich sugar farmers in Cuba, and when Fidel Castro came into power, he seized up their business and made them completely government run. Cubans of that era, especially if they were well to do, they left. They left for the United States, they left for Spain, they left for other countries in Latin America. This happened to my great uncle, actually. He owned a lumber yard in Havana, and one day he walks into his office, and Che Guevara was sitting at his desk, as he described his dirty boots on the desk, telling him that the government was seizing operations of the lumber yard, but not to worry because he would be well taken care of. And that night, he went home, he told his wife, pack the bags, we're leaving. Him, the wife, the kids. And that's the story of so many Cubans of that era. But back to the book. The Perez family try to recreate that extravagant life they had in Cuba in West Palm Beach, Florida. But it's very difficult when you don't have the same amount of money you used to. Beatrice, being the oldest daughter, her responsibility is to marry an affluent man so their family can keep the same status that they were so accustomed to on the island. But Beatrice has other ideas in mind. She wants to make Fidel Castro pay for the hardships her family has gone through. So, in turn, she's recruited by the CIA to infiltrate Castro's inner circle and hopes one day she will be the one to give the final blow to Castro and see his final breath and reclaim her island. This book felt really close to home. It is set in West Palm Beach, which is really close to home here in Florida. When reading it, hearing the way the characters spoke reminded me so much of listening to my grandparents and the other viejitos of that time speak about their experience and speak about how they left the island. And some of them left the island with nothing because the government took hold of their assets. And so they went from having money, having status, having things like that in Cuba, and then coming to the United States with nothing. Some of the way that they spoke is the way like my grandparents described that when they left Cuba that the United States was going to intervene. It was just going to be a few years in the US and then they would be able to go back to their island. That was not the case. So no matter how many years they lived here, their wish was one day that they could reclaim their island, that they could go back. The end of the book actually jumps forward to 2016 when Fidel Castro dies. That day is seared in my memories and will be for the rest of my life. The relief and celebration of Cubans all around the world for the death of a man who caused their families and their people so much pain. If you see the videos of like people here in Miami, I was living in Tennessee at the time, they were going crazy in celebrations. To read a little bit of that at the end of this book, I was like, yep, that's what it was like. I obviously highly recommend this book, When We Left Cuba by Chanel Cleeton. She has other books about Cuban expats coming to the US. I have not read those yet. I'm excited to going forward, but so far, like, because this is the only one I've read of hers, it's my favorite. Sticking with another Cuban American author, the next book is A Cuban's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. This book is about a girl named Lila Reyes who just graduated high school, and a few things have happened to her that have her family worried about her mental health. So they decide that she is going to spend summer in a small English town where her cousin lives to relax and reset. But with the lack of sun, a grumpy inn cook, and a small town lacking Miami flavor, both in food and otherwise, what would be a dream trip for some feels more like a nightmare to Lila until she meets Orion Maxwell. This book is absolutely charming, and I really like the relationship between Lila and her older cousin. Both women are Cuban American from Miami that have found themselves in England, one more permanently than the other, and navigating their new environments. What can I tell you? My My people are resilient people. Also, I haven't read it yet, but looking forward to one of the side characters in A Cuban Girl Guide to Tea and Tomorrow, Florida, the little sister of Orion, is the main character in the book that was released this year called A British Girl's Guide to Hurricanes and Heartbreak. So that's going to be the reverse where you got someone from England coming to Miami. So I'm excited to read that probably later this year. That's another recommendation of a book I haven't read, but you probably would like to if you like A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. The next book is Clap When You Land by Dominican American author Elizabeth Acevedo. This novel is written in verse and is about two sisters, one living in New York City and the other living in the Dominican Republic, find out that the other exists when their father dies in a plane crash on the way to the DR. Elizabeth Acevedo was inspired to write this book about the aftermaths of a singular family of American Airlines Flight 587 crash in November 2001. She remembers growing up in New York when the plane crashed and that everyone from her community knew someone that was on that plane. In the book, you have a loss of a father that was the center of these two girls' lives, and then realizing your parents are flawed human beings right after the death of one of them, and finding out that a whole another person, someone that shares your DNA, is alive, the product of your father's flaws, but still it's someone related to you didn't even know existed. This book is really good and it's easy to read because it is in verse, but then it's also hard to read because of the subject matter. You really are transported into these two girls' lives. The final book I'm going to recommend is The Spanish Love Deception by the Spaniard that writes books in English, Elena Armas. The book has the tropes: enemies to lovers, workplace romance, fake dating, forced proximity, etc. The description of the book is Catalina Martin desperately needs a date to her sister's wedding, especially since her little white lie about her American boyfriend has spiraled out of control. Now, everyone she knows, including her ex and his fiance, will be there and eager to meet him. She only has 4 weeks to find someone willing to cross the Atlantic and aid in her deception. New York to Spain is not a short flight, and her raucous family won't be easy to fool. Enter Erin Blackford, her tall, handsome, condescending colleague who surprisingly offers to step in. She'd rather refuse. Never has there been a more aggravating, blood boiling, and insufferable man. But Catalina is desperate, and as the wedding draws near, Erin looks like her best option. And she begins to realize he might not be as terrible in the real world as he is at the office. This is Elena Armas's debut as an author, and she knocks it out of the park. It's really funny, sweet, and swoon-worthy. And if you go check out my Hispanic Heritage Month TBR, I have another book by hers that is reading for the month. I have finished it. It's really good. Out for that with my September wrap-up video. So far, like, she's 2 for 2 for me. I really like Elena Armas's books. For this last half of Hispanic Heritage Month and first half of October, I hope you find one of these suggestions helpful enough. Remember to like and subscribe for more bookish content. Got some ideas here at Off the Wall. And I'll see you next time. Nos vemos.